Today on What's Next.
If you're not serving your community, what good are you? That's who I am. I'm a take charge kind of guy.
More and more women are feeling empowered and are embracing their silver hair. It doesn't mean that you're old.
I'm going to finish this race on my hands and my knees if I have to. That's what everybody wanted me to do, was to quit.
Thanks for joining us for a fresh episode of Growing Boulder's What's Next. I'm Mark Middleton. Excited as always to share several stories today of bold trailblazers. We're talking about men and women who are smashing stereotypes to forge their own path, and along the way they are setting a powerful and inspiring example for all of us. Speaking of trailblazers, I'm joined by these purveyors of passion, purpose, and possibility, Bill Schaefer, Amy Sweezy, and Cecily Wilson. And Bill, why don't you get us going today? Because I know you recently met somebody who has really stood tall in the face of adversity throughout his entire life.
That's exactly what the guy did, Mark. You know, sometimes the minute you meet someone, you can just tell. I went to a military ball. It's where anybody who served, all branches, get together, and this one was in the Villages, so it was packed with some, truly impressive people who've sacrificed, people who give. Well, there was one in particular who just seemed to stand out, and it turned out he was in his 90s, but physically strong, just like his opinions.
If you're not serving your community, what good are you?
That's the philosophy Frank Raspberry has lived by his entire life, 94 years. A true leader, a man who strives for excellence in everything he does to this very day. And he wants you to do it too.
Some people that's off-putting. I'm a little cocky, or he's a little arrogant, or, well, that's who I am. I'm a take charge kind of guy. Either get on board or get out of the way. And some people are not comfortable with that kind of attitude.
He believes we all need to expect more from ourselves and not to be satisfied with anything less.
Mediocrity is not something that I ever would accept. Excellence is what I strove for. I didn't always get there, but what I strove for always was excellence. You can get by. Getting by is nothing. How do you excel? How do you see? That's satisfaction, personal satisfaction in itself, even if nobody else sees it.
He celebrates the past, but he doesn't live in it. His home is filled with awards, many of them recent, that recognize his service to countless organizations. He takes pride in the fact that he's found a way to make a difference instead of making excuses. Racism? He has experienced it, says he's learned to deal with it calmly and firmly, even recently when he was approached at a meeting.
And I'm not sure how the discussion got to this point, but he said, well, all black people are entertainers or athletes. And I looked at him, and I stood up, and I looked him in the eye. I said, I don't think you're going to find me to be very entertaining. At which point he turned and walked away. I never saw him again.
When asked how much racism has held him back, Raspberry bristles.
Instead of looking and said, oh, woe is me, I'm a victim, I refuse to be anybody's victim. Now, I recognize I've been victimized, but I'm not a victim, because that means acceptance. And I do not accept that sort of thing. If I can control me and what I do and how I react, I can pretty well control the circumstance I find myself in. Not 100%. Sometimes pretty well, sometimes not so much, but I can have a strong influence on how this circumstance plays out because of how I control my part in it. And if I'm strong enough, I can influence your part in it and anybody else's part in it. That's the gospel according to Raspberry.
But that's the kind of thing you dealt with your entire adult life.
Yeah. I have my own standards of performance. It was kind of like I never wanted to be a role model until I found that I had to be a role model. And I decided at that point that the role that I was going to play, the model that I was going to be, was going to be of a positive one, a giving one, outstanding servant. Excellence became my byword. If you're going to do something and be somebody, be good at it, be excellent, put your best energies into it.
He was so impressive and so inspiring. I could have hung out with him all day long. Frank Raspberry has something we just don't see enough of these days. He has leadership. It just oozes out of him. He is a natural leader. And what he said about racism, I refuse to be anybody's victim. Cecily, he really wanted to be clear about his attitude towards those experiences.
Absolutely. I love his strength, his tenacity, and his courage just to continue to stand on his beliefs and be bold about it. I loved his boldness. In fact, I remember a phrase that Deion Sanders said once, and it reminds me of the gospel according to Raspberry. Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity. And that's exactly what he did.
And he's doing this at 94, Cecily. He's not letting anybody else's ignorance pull him down to their level.
I think if more people were able to stand in that type of doggedness, I think we would be in a better place. So hats off to him.
Yeah, great point. Mark and Amy, the first thing you said at the very beginning was something like, if you aren't serving your community, what good are you? We rarely hear anybody come out that strong about anything. What did you think?
First of all, I was blown away by that guy under any standard, Bill, but as you mentioned, 94 years old. I don't want to sound ageist because we want to be the opposite of that, but you do not hear a lot of 94-year-old men talk like he did. But as to his comment on community, I mean, spoken like a true military man. And, you know, I think we all say, and sometimes just flippantly when we meet somebody that has been in the service, thanks for your service. When you meet somebody like Frank, you realize it is not just, or it shouldn't just be some sort of simple greeting recognizing an ordinary job. It really does mean something. What he has done, what he continues to do is remarkable.
Absolutely. Mark, I think if I was in the military, I would want Frank to be my leader. For sure, right? You just feel like you'd want to go into battle with him. I really liked what he said too about expect more from yourself. I think that's a really good reminder for all of us when it comes to getting out in the community and making our community better. It starts with us. We often expect everybody else to get it done, but you know, what can I do to make my community better?
Most of the products that are for us have phrases like anti-aging. Everything comes to us in a very negative way, as though we are unhappy with the way that we look.
Every moment is once in a lifetime. I love that. But when we can't be together, it's hard to share those moments. That was before I found an easy way for Mom to connect with us. Oh, the memories. Their first date, to summers at the lake, to ball games, to birthdays, it's all shared with her grandpad. And that brings me happy tears. Mom, were your ears burning?
Oh, you know they were.
Did you get the pictures that Shelby sent you?
I did, and I felt like I was right there with you.
Life is about transitions, and there is an art and a science to navigating them. They're about shedding what matters least so we can focus on what matters most. And that's why Growing Bolder is thrilled to partner with Caring Transitions, the nation's most trusted total solutions provider for seniors in these times. Whether it's home cleanouts, downsizing, relocation, estate sales, and so much more, one call handles it all. To get started with a free consultation, visit caringtransitions.com. Welcome back to What's Next, and what's next is another bold trailblazer. Angel Cornelius's entrepreneurial story is one that really proves the old adage that necessity is the mother of invention. When her hair began to gray at an early age and she couldn't find any hair care products for silver hair, well, even though she had zero experience, she saw an opportunity. So she took it. She turned her kitchen into a laboratory. She did her own research and she founded her own company, Maison 276, with products that she believes are now changing the way society views silver hair.
At Maison 276, we are all about helping you celebrate your own version of beauty, whatever that may be, not someone else's idea of what beauty should be for you. More and more women are feeling empowered and are embracing their silver hair. Social media has really helped with that because women are starting to see other women, not just myself. There are millions of women on social media now who are very proud to show their silver hair. and that it doesn't mean that you're old or, you don't have a vibrant and full life. One of the proudest things that I feel about Maison 276 is it's not just the products. It is changing the narrative as it relates to aging, particularly as it relates to women aging. Most of the products that are for us have phrases like anti-aging, wrinkle reduction. Everything comes to us in a very negative way, as though we are unhappy with the way that we look. And the truth is that most middle-aged women don't even use that term to describe themselves. They're super excited. You get to think about yourself as a priority again. And so we are really proud to be on the forefront of that.
Great to see what she's doing, but let me toss it over to Amy and Cecily, because like she is, you guys are both influencers. You've got to feel really good that there's more people like her spreading the message that it's good to be you, no matter who you are or what age you are.
Absolutely. I love it. I like that she said, we should have our own version of beauty or embrace our own version of beauty. Some women do choose to color their hair, some don't, but you shouldn't have that pressure that society is telling you what you should or shouldn't do just to make you look younger or to be anti-aged, as she said. She doesn't like that anti-aging, that negativity. So I prefer to think of it as pro-living instead of anti-aging.
I have plenty of girlfriends who are aging with the silver hair and they love it and they're embracing it and they're rocking their hairstyles and just literally loving the moment that they're in. I love the fact that I too am an empty nester, and so I have a few grays coming around. They're not as defined as hers, but when they do, I'm gonna be rocking them. So yes, that pro living.
One of these days we'll talk about something Bill and I can relate to, but for now, I think the great news is that more and more women are not letting this anti-aging movement dictate, what they should look like or what they should wear. And that movement of self-confidence and self-expression is really being fueled by thousands of women now on social media who are doing their thing and encouraging others to do the same thing. In fact, here is this week's bold social clip.
You consider your longer hair kind of a rebellion?
Yeah, I do. Because when you got to be a certain age, you cut your hair. You never had long hair. Well, you maybe had like hair to here, maybe up here somewhere, but you didn't have long hair like this because you were an older person and you had to be a certain way. You dressed a certain way and you wore your hair a certain way and you got your hair cut. Usually you got your hair cut and you had a perm. Yeah, so it is kind of a rebellious thing, I think.
We're not made to withdraw from life. We're made to seize each moment and to value every breath. We're made to be bold, to take risks, and pursue our passions. Don't identify with limitation. Embrace possibility. Stop growing older. Start growing bolder. Find your what's next at growingbolder.com.
Welcome back to What's Next. If you are looking for inspiration, be sure to subscribe to our Fountain of Youth podcast. Learn the keys to active longevity from the experts and the lifestyle secrets from the men and women who are redefining what's possible for all of us. One recent guest on Fountain of Youth was Kathrine Switzer. She is a fearless pioneer who stood up in the face of adversity to change women's history in America. Switzer was just 20 years old in 1967 when she became the first woman to register and run the Boston Marathon. Less than 2 miles in, race director Jock Semple attacked her, trying to rip her bib number off and forcibly remove her from the race. Her boyfriend knocked him out of the way, and Switzer kept running, and she's never stopped.
When this happened, I was terrified. I really was terrified. I said, listen, Arnie, I'm going to finish this race on my hands and my knees if I have to. Because I knew if I didn't finish the race, first of all, I'd regret it the rest of my life. And I knew I could finish it. But I also knew that other women would not believe a woman could do it unless I finished. And that's what everybody wanted me to do, was to quit. I often say that when I first ran that Boston Marathon, I started it as a girl, but I finished it as a grown woman because it gave me a real life plan. And that life plan was to somehow create opportunities for other women to run.
And that's just what Switzer did, founding the Avon International Running Circuit in 1977, creating running programs in 27 different countries with more than 1 million women around the world involved. That worldwide participation played a big part in helping convince the International Olympic Committee to include the women's marathon in the 1984 Olympics. Switzer is still an impassioned advocate for women today through her 261 Fearless Foundation, empowering women with opportunities around the world. She still runs and competed in both the 5K and the 10K at this year's Senior Games in Fort Lauderdale, along with her husband, Masters record-setting runner and author, Roger Robinson.
Do you have goals when you're in a race like this, or just to have fun?
Well, it's not just to have fun, it's also to keep my fitness. A goal always gives you a focus. That's important to remember, even if it's like losing weight or just adding a half a mile to your run or whatever. But the important thing today for me is measuring my recovery. I have shingles, and I'll come out of that, I hope, but my measurement for fitness is always my run.
While Switzer might not have made the podium in Fort Lauderdale, the athlete, author, and advocate's legacy and influence were evident all around her, in the other women enjoying the opportunity to run and compete, many whom were denied that access before Title IX.
These people are all products of the same generation that I came from, and they know what it was like to have hard work or to miss opportunities. And so to be here with them and share that experience is great. I don't have children quite on purpose, and I always said, listen, every woman out there running is one of my children, and I always feel that even driving along in the car, I see a woman running, I say, yeah, she's one of mine. But the point is this, is we all need to carry the torch forward, and there's a lot to do in the world. Sports is for everybody, and it is all about diversity, inclusion, and equality and respect. These are things that we have learned, and the National Senior Games presented by Humana are a wonderful opportunity for everybody at any age to reclaim the athlete within.
So, Mark, you have spent so much time with Kathrine, including, of course, on the Fountain of Youth podcast. So how would you characterize the impact that she's had on women's sports history?
Well, first of all, Amy, I think, she's kind of one of those really strange occurrences, the perfect example of the right person at exactly the right time. And like you said in your piece, she really wasn't trying to make a statement. She wasn't trying to be rebellious. She wasn't trying to start a movement, but ripples from that single run and her reaction to what happened transformed not just the sport, but the lives of women worldwide and the cultures of country worldwide. What she did that day and what she continues to do to this day at the age of 76 now, simply transcends sport. She's the real deal.
You're likely to be faced with helping a loved one through a life transition, and Caring Transitions can partner with you during this time. We offer a customized approach to each individual for downsizing, home cleanouts, estate sales, online auctions, and more. With more than 280 locations nationwide, our experts are here to provide compassionate care and help you manage it all. Learn more with a free consultation at caringtransitions.com.
Every moment is once in a lifetime. I love that. But when we can't be together, it's hard to share those moments. That was before I found an easy way for Mom to connect with us. Oh, the memories. Their first date, to summers at the lake, to ball games, to birthdays. It's all shared with her grandpad. And that brings me happy tears. Mom, were your ears burning?
Oh, you know they were.
Did you get the pictures that Shelby sent you?
I did, and I felt like I was right there with you.
Welcome back to What's Next. I'm Bill Schaefer. Are you following Growing Boulder on social media? Our Facebook page, get this, has over 1 million followers. You got to see what all the fuss is about. You get to be part of our Your Take question of the week, and this time it was about leaders, about people who affect change. And the question was, name a trailblazer that you admire. Anne had a good one. She chose tennis legend Billie Jean King. Remember when she took on Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes? That did so much for gender equality. She was definitely a trailblazer. How about Mr. Rogers? Kathleen suggested Fred Rogers for guiding the hearts and minds of children to become intelligent, compassionate, non-judgmental people. And let me throw one in there for you too. Little Anthony of Little Anthony and the Imperials. I just met him a couple days ago, and what a conversation. You'll see it on an upcoming episode, but he played a pretty big role in breaking racial barriers in music. His success with songs like Tears on My Pillow opened the door for other artists of color, and he helped shape the music industry in a broad cultural context. And now, at 82, he's still touring, still hitting the high notes, and he's proving that age is not a detriment. Little Anthony. Cecily, who's a trailblazer you admire?
It's probably very obvious to me, well, maybe to others, but Lady O, Oprah Winfrey. And I've always admired her strength, the way that she's changed the narrative for women in the business and also changed the narrative for individuals just by sharing stories on her platform.
Well, since I'm from a world of meteorology in my past life, I chose Janice Huff. If you don't know who Janice is, she is the chief meteorologist in New York City at WNBC. She's a woman. She's an African American. She's in the #1 market. She's the chief, went to Florida State, and she's in her early 60s. So I love Janice, a true trailblazer for women in the world of TV weather.
Most people believe that politics and sports shouldn't mix, but I'm different than that. I've always admired those who use sports to change society, folks like Kathrine Switzer and Billie Jean King, we've mentioned them, but Jackie Robinson is my favorite. Of course, he broke the color barrier in baseball back in the 1940s, and like Kathrine, really all he wanted to do was just play the game that he loved. And folks, trailblazers use what they do, and then their strength to keep doing it, to change the world for others. And I can't imagine the strength that it took to be Jackie Robinson or Rosa Parks or Susan B. Anthony or Malala. Confronting racism and sexism is not easy, but when it comes to aging, we can all be trailblazers, and it's really not that hard. We can all fight for the rights of older people. We can all confront the ageist stereotypes that are still part of the fabric of our culture. So how do we do it? Simply by living life on our toes and not on our heels, by, in our own way, as we've seen today, continuing to do whatever we love, how we like to do it, even when society tells us it's time to stop. We do it by growing bolder while we're growing older.